We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani, and I am joined by these 2 illustrious practitioners. We have Roland Bradley and Lakeisha Hines, who are part of today's conversation. Hope you're doing well. I know who you are, so we could begin to just honor you and thank you for being a part of the program. Listen, before we get started, make sure you take the time to like, share, and subscribe. That's right. We come on every single day and several nights in the evening, several shows in the evening, and we want you to be a part of that. And when you subscribe, you get notifications, and you also are part of the community, which means that you can now share this with those in your community who need this information. A couple quick announcements. If you don't know, Christmas is right around the corner. It is Sunday. Have you done your shopping? Have you done what you were supposed to do? Then we have New Year's Eve. Then we have New Year's Day, and we are in a new year, and there's a lot coming down the pike for Couples Academy. First things first, Last Chance Weekend. It will be happening the second weekend of January. If you have not registered, please go ahead and do that. We're still kind of chewing on all of the testimonials that we received from couples who are part of last ones. And I want to show one to you right quick, and then we're going to get started with today's show.
Hi, my name is Frida Blair. I'm from Winchester, Kentucky, and we were here for the last chance. And I'll tell you the truth. This has been the best thing that we have ever invested in. We are just excited and glad that we came this weekend. We are changed. Transformation happened. If you want a blessing, you've got to get here. You've got to come.
My name is Michael Blair, and this is the Last Chance Weekend, and it has been completely amazing. It will change your life forever. So if you're looking for something that will certainly change the direction of your marriage and cause you to be a better man or a better woman, this is it right here. Come and be a part and leave being a totally different man and woman. God bless you, and it works.
It works.
Lakeisha, wasn't that an awesome couple?
Oh my God, I was just sitting here thinking, I love them. They were amazing. You know what? I want to add on to something that they said, though. You know, it works if you work it. That's the truth. It works if you work it. So, you know, we just ask when people come for Last Chance Weekend, show up with an open mind and open heart and be ready to receive. You know, it will work if you work it.
Absolutely. And so we're getting back into the conversation. We've been covering this, and I wanted to be intentional to take our time and really walk through this comprehensively, because, you know, when it comes to separation and divorce, and we're in that series, a lot of people listen, people do take the time to think, they're contemplating, they're vacillating back and forth, but a lot of times the decisions that they're making are soaked and saturated in feelings and emotions, and they begin to give their ear to people who are not necessarily marriage advocates, who are telling them about all the benefits of divorce, and girl, you should just go ahead and do it, and man, you could do better all by yourself. Like, we're hearing those things. And a lot of times, though, that information, though it may be coming from a good place from people's hearts, may not be the best to serve us and our situation. So we've been talking about the consequences, the costs. On yesterday, Roland and Gonzalez talked about the financial costs and how it impact one's financial assets. And today we're going to talk about real estate. This is a huge piece to deal with, because when you think about the average American, our wealth is tied up in real estate. You know, I've been listening to so many, you know, shows and podcasts about Kanye West, right? And how Kanye West was a billionaire, but most of his money was tied up in shares in the company. It's not like he had that liquid in the bank, right? So when you think about all the top CEOs in the world, those who are billionaires, tens of billions, hundreds of billions, the valuation of the company determines their wealth. Likewise, the valuation of a home determines one's wealth. And so when couples divorce, it has an insane financial impact on their financial sustainability. So that's why it's worthy of us having this conversation today. So we're going to dive right in and really unpack it in a multitude of ways. So first of all, before we do that, thoughts, anything you two want to say on this whole topic of real estate and how it really has an impact on the individual standings of the husband and the wife when they part ways?
Yeah, I think the more real estate you have, the trickier it becomes. I think that it just gets messier the more real estate you have. I think about a couple who are both real estate agents, and one of their main things, like their livelihood, their bread and butter is real estate property. And they would flip homes, and like, so they have all these properties that they've acquired. And so thinking about divorce, like, how do you even go about dividing up these assets when they're properties that were acquired together? And when they're in the middle of a flip, or they're in the middle of a reconstruction or something, like, what do you do? How do you divvy all of that up? And it just gets trickier. Like I said, the more real estate, the more property you have, the more difficult I think it becomes, should you decide to go that route with divorce.
And the flip side of that is the fact that we become so selfish in thinking that I just want to get out of this. I just want to do whatever I have to do to move on. And like you said, your homeboy is telling you one thing, your girlfriend is telling you another thing, but nobody is considering the financial impact that it is going to have on both parties. And so, yeah, we're thinking that we're going to have the meal ticket or the lottery ticket once we get this divorce and separate all of these properties and stuff like that. But that's not always the case. We have to remove ourselves from the selfishness of just thinking of oneself and consider all of the facts in the matter.
Absolutely. All right. So let's dive right in. There's a number of components we're looking at. Number one, and let's just go through them quickly. There's the primary house, the vacation homes, the rental properties, the business properties, the evaluation of costs for those properties, the capital gains tax complications, and the credit complications. But first, let's deal with the primary home. Let me just tell you a quick story. I literally just got a text on my phone literally yesterday morning about a couple who unfortunately did not go through the process. One spouse was not interested, and it led to their divorce. They divorced, and now the wife is in a horrible financial state where she actually is considering where she can find a homeless shelter, right? Because the divorce happened. The house has yet to be settled. It's going to be settled. And in the meantime, she's homeless. There were statistics that suggested that divorce impacts women far greater than it does men, because in most households, the man is the primary provider. And even if they both work, he may make more money than the wife. So he's able to bounce back from that perspective in a way that women often can't. Now, it is true that men do have a financial strain because all the things that they're responsible for paying for. But could you imagine? We were not in a great place. We were emotionally disconnected. We didn't like each other, but we were in the same home together. And now, as a result of this marriage coming to an end, I now am homeless and no longer have access to my primary home. So there's a lot happening with that primary home. You two can feel free to speak into that.
Well, we spoke about it on yesterday, to your point that women over 50 that gets a divorce, they lose 45% of their standard way of living. So when you consider that amount of percentage of your lifestyle changing, and now you're having to readjust to a new lifestyle with minimum means, that means that the impact of what has happened is much greater than you investing into saving the marriage. On the other side, it's only 21% for men. So to your point, men have a faster or better chance of recovering or bouncing back, if you would, from the divorce. And women find themselves to a degree struggling until they can get over the hump of what has happened. And so it's something that, the consideration of having a divorce has to be very well thought out. And it can't just be based on emotions of, I don't like this person anymore, I have fallen out of love, and not invest into saving the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this, this topic as a whole, like it's a downer for me. It makes me sad because, my whole thing is about trying to help facilitate marital restoration and wanting couples to work out. So this whole topic like brings me down. But I will say this, I understand that this is the reason for a lot of women developing that whole boss mentality where they're in this space of I am going to do everything humanly possible not to be in a position where I am 100% totally dependent upon a man in case he loses his mind one day, in case he goes crazy, wakes up one day and realizes, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. And so she's not left destitute. To your point, Hassani, with this couple that you just gave us an example of, with this woman ended up basically homeless and has no place to go. This is why a lot of women turn to being more self-sufficient and being more independent, so they don't end up in this type of predicament. And God never intended for it to be this way.
So true. And when you really get into the weeds of what happens when people are trying to determine what to do with their home, oftentimes they kind of try to determine, okay, so for instance, I know someone who wants the house, right? They're in a beautiful home, like 5,000-6,000 square foot home, 5 bedrooms, but there's only 2 of them. They're getting a divorce, and there's such an emotional attachment to the house because I built this house. I put in the custom cabinets, and I'm the one who determined what type of carpet and the color of the paint. And so even if it's not financially expedient for you to maintain it, your emotions won't allow you to release it. And so now that puts you in a financial bind as well, because now you're responsible for that home and that mortgage and all the bills associated with it all by yourself. What a financial strain. And so oftentimes you have 3 types of scenarios that take place. One spouse keeps the home by buying out the other's legal interests, right? That happens. One spouse keeps the use and occupancy of the home for a specific period of time, after which the house is then sold. And then the house is sold immediately and all the equity is split between the spouses. Now, that happens oftentimes, but that takes time. I mean, depending upon the market that you're in, putting that house up for sale, it could take some time. And so what do you do in the meantime? And then the reality is, once that house is sold and the equity is split, now you suffer the possibility of capital gains taxes if you don't do something with that money. So it's just like, man, not only am I losing my home, yes, I'm getting a piece of the equity, which is fine, because now I got to cover all the debts that I just incurred by making this decision. And now I got to find temporary housing, which is not the same as permanent housing. So I can rent. Yeah, I can rent somewhere for a year, but what am I going to do with all this other money? Am I going to put it in my savings account and live off it? I can't, because if I do, now I have a major tax consequence because of capital gains taxes. So there's so many things that we have to think through when dealing with a divorce that we need to consider. Now, am I just saying, listen, stay so you don't suffer financially? I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is it should cause you to reevaluate what you're doing. And think about this. People often talk about counseling. Oh my God, it's just so expensive. And I don't know, I don't want to put my money into all this. Think about the cost if you don't go to counseling. Yeah. This is what we're talking about now. What a greater cost. So we talked about the typical divorce can be anywhere between, $15,000 to $30,000, depending upon the state that you're in. And that's on the low end. If it's contested, it can go up as much as $100,000. But then the cost of the real estate, the cost of the taxes, the debt that you're going to incur, if you just took a portion, a sliver of that, and invested it into your marriage, what a difference it would make. And this is why we do what we do, to help people from jumping into that financial quicksand. So anyway, we're just getting started, guys. I hope that you're hearing something that is impactful for you. What we're going to do is go to a quick commercial break, and we will be right back right after this. Stay tuned.
Couples Academy is committed to serving couples around the world by reaching beyond cultural lines and language barriers. We are proud to announce that we now serve the Spanish-speaking community. So whether you're here in the United States or abroad, Couples Academy has a place for you.
Couples Academy se compromete a servir parejas de todo el mundo, superando las fronteras culturales y las barreras del idioma. Ahora, estamos orgullosos de anunciar que servimos a la comunidad de habla hispana. Entonces, ya sea que estés aquí en los Estados Unidos o en el extranjero, Couples Academy está aquí para servirle.
Hey guys, we're back. Hold 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. We're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. There was a great comment that came in that I want to address, and it's from friend Sheska. We're working on the relationship and doing better, but we have down days. Recently, we tried selling the house to move to a new one and continue moving forward, but the market isn't helping. So stressful. And this is what I'm saying. So think about this. You put your house up on the market. In your mind, you're thinking, okay, quick sale, we'll have this amount of money, we can do this with it. But it's sitting on the market for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10, sometimes a year, all these different months. And now financial consequence, financial tax. Gorgeous Well says something powerful. Hello, whatever happened to you married, I'm sorry, to
You married to become one.
Yeah. What your is now you both?
What's yours is now both of yours, even when you divorce.
Am I tired?
Like what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. That's what she's saying.
That's what she's saying. And it's true because, it's interesting when it comes to this. One of the most important things for homeowners to remember is that in the case of divorce, like the majority of the assets or property accumulation during the marriage is now marital property. Yep. Meaning that it's owned by both spouses. And in divorces, the name on the title or the deed doesn't always matter. This is the case unless the property was given as an inheritance to a particular person. But yeah, so whether, one person has their name on the title, one person has their name on the deed, whatever the case may be, the mortgage, but none of that matters because it's joint property, at least in most states.
Yeah.
And so when divorce takes place, it's a tremendous impact. That's why people don't know what a lien is, what a chain of title is, what equitable distribution is. They don't know what inherited property actually is by definition, a warranty deed, a quitclaim deed, a postnuptial agreement. And not having this knowledge, you will suffer when it comes to that divorce. And so there's so many other ways that you can go. But we've been talking about primary real estate. I want to jump into the next one, and that is vacation homes and rental property. Now, there's not as much as an emotional tie and attachment like a primary home, but at the same time, this is where we went every summer. This is where we took our family. This is where we really shared memories that we've held on forever. Guys, what are your thoughts on vacation properties and rental properties?
Well, yeah, I mean, I actually was sitting here thinking about a story that I just heard from Michelle Obama, and she was talking about how every Christmas they go to Hawaii. They have a property every Christmas. That's what they do. So yes, there will be some emotional ties to a vacation home if it's something that is utilized on a regular basis with the couple, with their family, with their kids. Like you said, like there will be memories there. So there is a connection and attachment there. And going back to my example of the couple who are both real estate agents, and they will have rental properties. And again, how do you go about separating all of that? You were talking about post-nuptials, and like the average person doesn't have a prenup, right? Like people who have prenups are people who have millions and billions of dollars typically, right? The average person is not having those. And even a post-nup is typically someone who has acquired an exuberant amount of wealth. And even with a prenup and postnup, sometimes it still gets messy when you try to divorce. So, for me, I think it's all about putting that time, that money, that effort, and that energy into getting support, into getting counseling before you get to this place, or when you see that you guys are moving in that direction. Even with Francesca talking about putting their house on the market. Okay, well, while you're waiting on that house to sell, you should be getting some counseling. You guys should be getting the support and the help that you need, because what you're going to do is take these same issues and problems into your new house. Do you want to start in your new house with your old problems? I don't think so. So we still have to continue working on our marriage and working on our relationship and our individual selves so that we can be the best version of ourselves. And even if you do decide we've done all we can do, we've done everything we can, and we just mutually decide that we're going to separate, when you're working on yourself and you've done everything you need to do, you can walk away amicably. And there isn't all of this bickering and fighting and arguing because you're at peace.
Yeah, and the other thing you said, Hassana, you mentioned all of these terms, all of this terminology that most people don't have Most people don't even know what you were talking about. And now you have to pay someone to explain to you everything that goes along with selling this house, with buying this house, with putting it up for sale and going through the divorce. And so now when you talk about compounded expenses, you're talking about expense on top of expense on top of expense, not just because, oh, I got a lawyer and they're going to handle it. No, now you're paying for everything that lawyer knows. Now you're having to pay for the appraisal, what they know. Now you're having to pay for, the inspection for what they know. You're not paying for what they do. You're paying for what they know, because obviously you don't know. And it's here again, now you're paying for all of these expenses that, you know how it is. We're going to the movie. No, you're not just buying a movie ticket. You're buying a movie ticket. You're buying popcorn. You're buying drinks. You're buying candy. You're buying a whole works. And that's what you're doing when you're going through this divorce. You are buying everything that comes along with it.
Now you hit it dead on. And I think people really underestimate the true cost of their decisions. It's just like, man, when you got married, were you really on solid ground? Did you really have a true foundation? Because so many get married because they're in love and they spend all this money on a wedding and then wind up spending 2-3 times that on a divorce. And it's just like, man, what did I really do? Was I really ready? Did I put in the work necessary to try to save and restore what was not going right? And as a consequence, the financial debt is just insane.
There are couples who have actually gotten divorced before they were even done paying off the ring, done paying off the wedding, and they have gotten divorced.
Facts. If you think that the only people who reach out to us are people who've been married 10, 20 years, you would be mistaken. We have many couples who are in their first year and contemplating divorce. And to your point, the ring bill, the wedding bill, they're still paying caterers, they're still, all of that is still being done. And now they're about to jump into more debt. This comment came, it says losing a vacation home is like losing a piece of your family history. That's a fact. It really is, to your point with Michelle Obama, the family. And many of us have that one time a year getaway where we're working from sun up to sundown. We got, we're working class, and it's all about work. And the one time we go away where we can celebrate and enjoy is that one time a year. Now that goes away. But let's get back into this list, because I really want to take our time with the real estate and business property. You got to understand this, guys, that many people, the reason why we do real estate is because there is sustainable generational wealth that can be created from this. As you increase your age, the amount of money that you make significantly goes down. So when I was in my 20s and 30s, fine, I was doing well. Going to my 40s, still doing quite well. 50s, kind of plateaus, right? But at some point, once you reach your 60s, you work less. 70s, you're working less. You're about to prepare for retirement. And so the money that you're making from an earned income is no longer what it once was, and something you need to compensate for that. And oftentimes, real estate is the very thing people do so that they can live the same level of life or much better level of life. But when the divorce happens, everything that we have been planning for, working towards, all the investments that we've made, it goes away. I know a couple right now. We just did a private marriage intensive. They own several businesses, owner-operator businesses, and has a tremendous amount of impact on their real estate, right? So businesses, real estate, and all other types of financial investments, all that is significantly impacted with the divorce. Having to divide that, having one portion go to a wife, one portion go to a husband, it's detrimental. So this is why we're saying, come in here and get this work done. It doesn't have to go down like this. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I would say, again, making an investment into your marriage is the best investment you can make. So you have all of these businesses, you have all of these properties, you have all of these homes. And what is it to have all of these things and not be able to share it with the one you say you love? And so then we're going to go and we're going to get a divorce. And the only thing we're doing is leaving one person, bringing all of our problems to another person, because you cannot run away from yourself. And that goes back to doing the work on ourselves to have better marriages. So now you start marriage hopping, if you would, from one marriage to another, wondering why you're running into the same problems. Perhaps you're the least common denominator in every marriage you go to. And so now, if you do the work on yourself, you can obtain the finances you have, you can obtain the businesses that you have and the properties that you have, and your legacy can be a true legacy and not something you're just talking about, wishing and hoping for, but it can be a real thing.
Yeah, that divorce with a business, oh my gosh. Again, like the more assets you have, the trickier it becomes, right? Divorce with a business involved is like an iceberg. It's not what lies above the surface that can sink you, it's what's lurking underneath. So really, when you think about having a business, there's more than one way of trying to determine the value of that business and what part of it or what percentage of it is considered marital property. And so there's many different ways that you have to go about evaluating and assessing that, because it's different for every couple who has a business, different for every business. It depends on, what state you're in. And there's so many different methods that you can go by to evaluate that business. But again, it becomes so difficult. Back to your previous point, Hassani, about how it really is a very difficult thing to do when you have all of these assets and properties, when you're trying to assess what part of it is marital property and what part of it is not, and what should be included and what should be excluded. And the one thing I wanted to talk about earlier was about control. When we are trying to decide whether or not we're going to divorce, one of the things that I think everyone's trying to hold on to is some level of control. And even when they move into making that determination that, okay, this is what we want to do, when we start trying to divide these assets and we start trying to divide the children and all these different things, we're trying to maintain some level of control. And if there was infidelity involved, and that is the primary reason why the couple is getting divorced, then there's definitely a lot of control typically that they're trying to hold on to, because I had no control over you cheating. I had no control over you lying. I had no control of this other person. And God forbid you try to get that affair partner into that marital property, or if that affair partner is a part of that business, you're going to get even more pushback. It's going to be even more difficult when you have to go to court, because that spouse who is the betrayed many times is intentionally trying to make it difficult because they're hurt.
Absolutely. I was just talking to Roland before we started the show, and I said, if people never believed that marriage is a business, try getting a divorce, and you're going to realize how much of a business it actually is.
Yes.
And so you want to learn how to handle your business and do it right, both in terms of the partnership as well as the companionship. Listen, guys, I hope you got something out of today's show. It's important for us to really dig into the details so that you really can have a logical conversation with yourself and your partner and not an emotional one. You don't have to go down the same path so many others have. If you think that divorce is the pathway to happiness, unfortunately, you're mistaken. It compounds the pain upwards of 5 years beyond the divorce. And so that's why we're here. We focus on affair recovery, but also divorce prevention. That is our tagline. That's what we're standing on. That's what we believe. So if you're in that place of indecision, if you're vacillating back and forth, if you want to know a better path to take, reach out to us, couplesacademy.org. We would love to serve you. And I know during this holiday season, you got a lot going on in your mind, but let us guide you through this season to get into your new season in 2023. Guys, we love you. We'll see you tomorrow as we continue this conversation. Take care.